Hello, my little fuzzy bat butts. Today we're going to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. On my ask.com website, I have gotten a ton of questions from younger kids around the age of 13 to 16 years old, wondering what is goth music, where do I start, what bands can I look into, and how do I dig deeper? And today I want to tell you all of the bands that you should check out first and foremost, and then in the future I will do more videos of like maybe some more obscure bands that I recommend checking out that are a part of the goth subculture. So goth, this wonderful, wonderful world of goth, I am just talking about the music aspect of goth. There is goth architecture, but that is definitely not what I'm talking about. What we're going to encompass today is goth music, and we're going to talk about the older generation bands because I think it is really, really important as a musician if you're going to make music in the goth subculture, or if you even are thinking about branching off into one of the other subcultures that were inspired by goth. I think it's very important to know the history of where it all came from and to know the backbone of the melodies and what truly made goth goth in its prime days. I believe goth started in the late 70s, early 80s, and has wonderfully lived on to our current day where younger generations such as myself, I'm not really that young, I was born in 1990, so I wasn't an 80s child, but younger generations are now picking up on goth, and I think that it's important that the history does not get lost in this moving forward of the subculture, because we want it to grow and expand and become even more beautiful and get more beautiful music out of it. So here we go, jumping in. The first goth band I recommend to you is going to be Joy Division. Joy Division is where there's a lot of people that could argue on this, but Joy Division is one of the original starting bands of the goth subculture or goth genre. Joy Division are believed to be the ones who coined the word goth to be described for music, because it was in one of the interviewers had called their music gothic because the tones are so dark and the melodies are quite dark. So we're going to start off with Joy Division. The lead singer, Ian Curtis, unfortunately ended up committing suicide, but his band members branched off and created New Order. New Order is way, way more dancey than Joy Division was, and actually, back up, Joy Division, a couple of the younger generation, you'll probably be familiar with Joy Division simply because retailers have totally raped the imagery of Unknown Pleasures, and Unknown Pleasures is the little sound waves that they have on the t-shirts, and that is Joy Division's original, one of their original CD covers. But anyways, New Order came after Ian Curtis passed away. We had New Order with the remaining members. New Order is more of like dancey music. It's very synth oriented and awesome. I don't know if you could necessarily consider it goth, but I recommend checking it out because it does have gothic undertones. And I'm sure some of the younger subculture, you probably heard of the song Blue Monday, where it's dun 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 dun. How does it feel to treat me like you do when you lay your hands upon me and told me who you were? That is New Order originally. They are the original Blue Mondayers. So then our next founding father of goth is going to have to be Bauhaus. And here's a couple of little Bauhaus examples. If you were out in a store and you're looking for covers, Bauhaus is epic. It's very, it's like a wall of sound whenever you listen to it. It's just a lot of noise, but it's very like dark undertones. He has the deep voice that is seen in Joy Division, where it's down really low and undead, so it's the deep tones. After Bauhaus split up, we got tons of new wonderful gothic goodness that was added to the subculture. So Peter Murphy is the lead singer of Bauhaus, and he broke off and started doing his own solo work, which is really, really good. Really popular track that Peter Murphy had from his solo work was Cuts You Up. running out of breath. So Love and Rockets is basically Bauhaus minus Peter Murphy. It's all the members of Bauhaus but no Peter Murphy. And Love and Rockets is really good, so I also recommend check that out. Daniel Ash, which is the guitar player, broke off and did several different projects that are also fall under the Gothic category. Daniel Ash also went on to do Tones on Tail. Tones on Tail has all that nice dark soundscape. It's quite lovely. And then Daniel Ash went on to do some solo work as well. His solo work it's okay. I enjoy listening to it sometimes, but I wouldn't call home about it. And then, of course, we can't talk about goth and the fundamentals of goth without talking about The Cure. And I know The Cure could probably fall under new wave, but his older stuff had very gothic undertones, and I don't believe he likes to be put under the term goth. Robert Smith, the lead singer of The Cure, does not like to be put under the term goth, if I remember correctly. Actually, a good majority of these bands do not like the term goth. Go figure. So The Cure is really, really awesome. I would recommend, if you're just getting into it, to listen to Disintegration, because it's a really great album. But all of them, you can't really go wrong with The Cure. His soundscape is very moody and beautiful, so check that out. And of course, while we're talking about these fundamental gothic bands, we can't leave out the queen of the scene, the underground scene, Siouxsie Sioux. Siouxsie and the Banshees. She also has done solo work simply as Siouxsie, which would be this wonderful thing right here. But Siouxsie and the Banshees is really, really great. Her older stuff kind of has a progressive feel to it. It's like progressive goth sound. Siouxsie, actually, interesting enough, her involvement in the scene goes really, really far back with like the Sex Pistols. She used to hang out with the Sex Pistols. Her, Nina Hagen, Billy Idol, and various other 80s artists used to hang out, and like Adam and the Ants, Adam Ant, they used to hang out with the Sex Pistols back in the day, so you can also jump really far back in history and check out that as well. This subculture is so beautiful, and there's so many different webs and links, and everybody's connected in this own like weird, intricate way. But Siouxsie and the Banshees, she's got her awesome trademark deep wailing noise. I really look up to Siouxsie, and I try my best to take lessons from her. But Siouxsie also later on in the 90s ended up splitting off and doing her own thing with The Creatures, which is a really, really great band. It's kind of ambient. It's not really ambient. It's like, it's gothic, but it's got some tribal feels to it. So you're probably thinking, yeah, that's great and everything, but what about all the people with like the ripped up stockings and the crazy mohawks and like the punk look, but they're not really punk, like they look gothic and they look punk? That's called death rock. And I believe, to me, death rock could be traced back to, you could either trace it back to LA with Christian Death and the original Christian Death with Roz Williams, or you could jump all the way overseas and trace it back to the Batcave with Specimen and Alien Sex Fiend. Here's some Specimen goodness. Specimen is so awesome. It's so dancey and great. It's gothic, and it's gothic in this awesome cliche. I say cliche because it has to do with like coffins and spiders and webs and all these spooky things, and those are like beautiful cliches that you can play on that are just fun. I love it. So we have Specimen, you could go to 45 Grave, Christian Death, Alien Sex Fiend. The list goes on and on for those bands that you could check out that are part of like more of the death rock movement and the roots behind that. So this has just been a really brief overview of Gothic and where Gothic started off, and hopefully I named off some bands that you can check out and look into, and maybe you get sparked, like your interest gets sparked, and then you can branch off from there and find more bands. But I will also in the future be doing videos on my channel where I suggest some other bands that you can maybe check out, or maybe if you've heard of them, you can let me know, or you can tell me like some bands that you think I should check out. I think it'll be fun. It'll be a great way to explore music, keep the scene alive, and support the artists that are making the scene move on and giving the scene a future. And the future rests within the artist's hands of our current day artists. So we need to also, while we appreciate the old artists and who originally started goth, we also need to support the new artists that are coming in and that are giving goth this fresh uptake and grooming it and keeping it alive. We just want to, let's keep the scene alive. So yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. There'll be more in the future suggesting more bands. Thank you so much for watching. I love you so very much. Feel free down below to discuss the bands or maybe some of your favorite branches that they've branched off into. But I love you guys so much. I'll talk to you very soon. Mwah! Goodbye.